corruption leadership. Earlier this month, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission wanted the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) to block 241 aspirants from contesting in the August 9th polls. In a letter, EACC said the 241, including outgoing Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria, former Nairobi Governors Mike Sonko and Evans Kidero, and Kirinyaga Anne Mombi Waiguru, failed the integrity test owing to active cases and investigations against them. However, IEBC declined the move by EACC to lock out the candidates from contesting, with Chairperson Wafula Chebukati saying that the electoral agency upholds the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in their clearance of candidates. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
And meanwhile, Deputy President William Ruto led Kenya Kwanza in signing the youth charter at the Nyayo National Stadium. Apollo Kamau was following on the same and filed the following.
NHIF remains the, I don't want to say, maybe Dr. will oppose it, but the only silver bullet we have to fight in order for us to achieve universal health coverage. What we need to do is to turn it around.
While gracing the event at Catholic University here in Nairobi, Deputy President William Ruto stated that the meeting was not for a political interest, but aimed at discussing how to revive the country's ailing health sector, Ruto promising a working health system in 100 days if elected in the August polls.
So health records become the biggest challenge and nightmare we ever have. We wanted to procure a health records system, digital system, that would not only give us portability of patient data, but it would also help us in the whole space of telemedicine.
It's really about recalibrating.
The Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate promised to ensure that there are quality health care facilities for those at the bottom of the pyramid and ensure coverage through NHIF to eliminate the cost of burden on Kenyans. Ruto has accused the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority (KEMSA) of delay in supply of drugs in hospitals.
We must sort out the health commodity supply chain. I don't know about the wisdom of having a monopoly called KEMSA. Some people must persuade us that there is logic, there is reason why we have a facility that don't have drugs that are required at the right time, but they have drugs that stay in the stores until they expire.
He says Kenya Kwanza will bring a transformative approach to healthcare based on the bottom-up principle, terming health record in Kenya being in a worse situation which requires immediate action.
30% of our population are one sickness away from poverty. And I think that's too much of a risk.
If we can take care of that.
Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary General officials has promised Ruto full support provided salary payments and allowances will be on time.
If you give me a centralized system of payment of salary, a centralized system of allowing county governments to give out the specs on the employees they want, you, County A, give out the specs as the health system, as the whatever it is, the workers you want, pay, employ them. Once you employ these workers, offload them into that system.
Lucky Heriano, reporting for TV 47, Nairobi.
And Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance presidential candidate, that is Right Honorable Raila Odinga, led his campaigns in Garissa County, promising to address the issue of youth unemployment if elected in August. Odinga has also promised to restore peace in the northern counties that have been affected by insecurity.
Azimio la Umoja flag bearer Raila Odinga led his team in Garissa County, asking Garissa residents to rally behind him in the August poll. Addressing the residents of Garissa, criticized the bottom-up economic model pushed by the Kenya Kwanza camp, terming it as a narrative which has no space in the country.
Mimi sijawahi ona mwanaume anaomba kura akisema uchumi umeharibika na yeye amekaa State House, amekalia kiti, na badala ya kusaidia Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta alitoroka Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta akaenda kucheza kasumba ya siasa.
Hawa nimesikia leo akiongea kwa radio na TV. Anasema ya kwamba ako na mpango ya afya ya kusaidia Wakenya. Mimi nauliza yeye, mwaka 9 ulikuwa unangoja nini? Sasa hii ndio umefufuka, ndio umekuja kugundua wananchi ya Kenya hawana matibabu ya maana.
Kuna alama 3 ya mtu mnafiki. Alama ya kwanza, akisema anadanganya. Alama ya pili, akiahidi atimizi ahadi.
The Azimio running mate Martha Karua, on the other hand, promised to swipe corruption in the country if elected in the August poll.
Nikiwa nyuma ya baba, hatutacheka au kucheza na wafisadi. Ile pesa yenu inachukuliwa na watu wanajifanya matajiri, yote tutafunga hizo mifereji, ndivyo tuwapatia matibabu, masomo, usalama na kila kitu.
Ati mambo ya usalama tutaimarisha. Hatutaki kuona kama mtu yeyote anashika Mkenya yoyote anakwenda anaua bila sababu. Extrajudicial killings must end and will end.
Miaka 31 watoto hajaenda shule, wanajua tu AK-47. Hii ndio kalamu yao. Kwa hivyo mjue mpaka Somalia imarike, sisi wenyewe tunakuwa na upungufu wa amani.
The Azimio Brigade assured the residents that Azimio government will create job opportunities among the youth in the region.
Baba Kenya atahakikisha kwamba vituo vya matibabu zimeletwa karibu na pale watu wanaishi, zimejengwa vizuri, kuna daktari ndani yake, kuna manasi ndani yake na dawa yuko ndani yake. Okay? Pili, tunaleta bima ya matibabu, health insurance scheme, ambaye kila Mkenya, watoto, wakina mama.
Further, the leaders blamed the second in command, William Ruto, for what they termed as narratives which do not carry any reality and only existing in fantasy.
Juzi alikuwa anaongea juu ya mambo ya education. Amesema akichukua usukani atatoa CBC. Jana amesema hawezi kutoa, ataangalia vile itaendeshwa. Juzi alisema ati ataweka level 6 hospital kila county. Saa hii leo anasema ataweka level 3 kila county. Huyo ni muongo, sio muongo?
Odinga has been leading Azimio la Umoja campaigns in the northern part of the country. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
And Roots Party presidential candidate George Wajakoya took his campaigns to the Lake City of Kisumu to sell his political agenda, where he made several stopovers in the CBD. Wajakoya's convoy sneaked through Oginga Odinga Street, Nyalenda, Kachok, and finally Kondele. Addressing a crowd at Kondele, Wajakoya slammed some government officials who were against his campaign mode, accusing him of misleading the youth with a marijuana narrative that they don't have any moral authority to tell a presidential candidate on how to campaign. He said he chooses to form the Roots Party after all parties refused to accommodate him.
They have no moral authority to tell a presidential candidate how to campaign. Somebody in the government is telling the world that this man is trying to mislead the public. Hao wenyewe ni mawaziri, wapeleke watoto wao ng'ambo, wawache watoto wetu wakae na sisi na tabu zetu. Kweli ama rongo? I'm warning that cabinet minister, he'll be the first one I will sack when I take over the authority. Ya chama ni chama ya wenye Kenya. watu ambao wamemea kama mmea. Hata ukienda Israel, hata ukienda Uganda, ukienda South Africa ama Uholanzi, ama uende Canada, ama uende Zimbabwe.
Now, away from politics, the family of slain Dutch businessperson Tob Cohen now says his widower forced him to marriage. Cohen's sister, Gabrielle Hannah van Starten, has told the court that the wife of the deceased, Sarah Wairimu, forced marriage with the late brother, adding that she allegedly threatened Cohen that she will make sure he is deported if he declines to marry her. Cohen's sister testified that Cohen neither had children with his first wife, who was a Dutch, nor with Sarah Wairimu, adding that he underwent a surgery and that it was his decision not to have children. While refuting claims that Sarah has shares to Cohen's properties, the sister said that she received an email from his brother telling her where to find the will in case Sarah killed him.
Did he have a family in this country?
When he came in this country, he was married with a Dutch wife.
He had a Dutch wife?
No children.
And no children?
Mm-hmm.
No children, why?
Because at age 27 he decided that he did not want to have any children, and neither did his wife, so he had an operation.
He underwent a biological,
yeah,
medical operation that could not make him have children.
Yes. With respect to the property, she does not own anything of the land. Top was very much against any percent to give her.
Why?
I don't know. I started to say that my brother Top was in a fight with the neighbors about his land, and then Sarah said, if you don't marry me now, they will send you out, they will, how do we say, deport you out of the country. On the 30th of April 19, I received from my brother, 30th of April 19, 2019, yes, I received an email where the first sentence was, if Sarah kills me now, the will is at Cheki Kurun. Here is all the information.
The provincial administration and political leaders in Nakuru have been taken to task by residents following a spate of brutal killings by a faceless gang targeting women in Bahati constituency. Chichi Josephine now reports that at least 4 women have been killed in the last 2 weeks.
During a security meeting that was led by County Commissioner Erastus Mboi and Governor Ali Kinyanjui, it emerged that the gang has killed 6 women in a similar manner in the past 6 months.
Kwa nini ni wamama tu wanauliwa? Tuko na uchungu. In fact, leo asubuhi my daughter aliniambia, mama usiniache kwa sababu nitauliwa. Watoto wetu wako na uoga kwa sababu ya hao criminals.
The meeting came at the backdrop of 3 women being killed in the last 2 weeks in separate incidences, some involving rape and burning of their bodies in broad daylight at their homes.
Tuliongea na yeye throughout mpaka saa sita nusu ndio alinipigia simu. Akaniambia kuna mtu amekuja, akasema nimemtuma yeye ni fundi. Kamuuliza anakuambia ni fundi wa nini? Akaniambia ni fundi wa furniture. Nikamwambia sisi hatuna furniture, tunatengenezewa. Kitu wana ndio nilipigiwa simu na majirani wakaniambia kwangu kuna chomeka. Sasa after that kukuja ku rescue nini wakapata msichana amelala kwa kitanda yake.
Political leaders led by Governor Lee Kinyanjui weighed in saying that from the deaths the police should by now have a clear strategy on how to deal with the gang.
Uwe wewe ni ndugu ya nani, uwe wewe ni Mkenya, wewe ni Msudanese, haijalishi. If you are the one causing our community this misery, we shall come for you in person.
Mimi hata sijui tunaongea masaa mingi ya nini. The first thing that needs to happen tomorrow by saa 2, wekeni polisi huko.
Na nyinyi pia community niwaambie, mkiona mhalifu hapana, don't protect a criminal.
Bila kulaumiana, bila kuwekeleana lawama, tutafute tujue ni information gani imepeanwa kwetu hatujashughulikia.
Residents are however pointing fingers at Nakuru MP whom they have accused of financing the gang, which they said he uses for political leverage during campaigns.
Sijui wameogopa mambo ya siasa ama wanataka kuleta hali ya taharuki, kuweka uoga kikundi fulani cha raia kwa wakati huu wa kupiga kura ili kuwahandaa ama ni nini. Lakini akina mama, of course, they are easy targets and they are defenseless.
The most recent victims are Grace Wanjiru, 21 years, who was killed on June 15th, Susan Wamboi, 36 years, killed on June 21st, and Diana Tasha, 25 years, who was killed on June 24th. Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
All right, well, thank you, Chichi, for that. We hope that certainly that could be put to rest. Now, the Ministry of Health, together with the British High Commission, has flagged off the first cohort of Kenyan nurses to Oxford University. Well, the nurses who were taken through a rigorous 3 months, recruitment process will be going to work in the United Kingdom under the government to make sure that bilateral agreements that were signed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, that is in January 2021, alongside the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, then come to light.
In what marks a new era in international recruitment of healthcare workers in the country, 19 nurses are set to leave the country Tuesday morning. Speaking during the flagging off ceremony, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe said, with over 11,000 nurses graduating every year, the bilateral agreement is an excellent opportunity for the government to bridge an employment gap among nurses who make up 60% of the healthcare system.
In Kenya, we have a total of 60,579 registered nurses and midwives. The public sector has 38,000 of those, while the rest are in the private sector. Faith-based organizations, abroad, and others retirees. From 11,000 nurses, over 11,000 nurses and midwives graduate yearly in Kenya. And as a government, we wouldn't wish to see our many trained nurses jobless or they are critically needed elsewhere.
On her part, the UK High Commissioner Jane Marriott urged the nurses to be good ambassadors for Kenya, saying the success of the pilot program will determine whether the UK will be taking more nurses from Kenya.
We started small, a small number of 19 to help prove the system. It's always the first cohort where you run into the teething problems, so we've worked those out now. And I look forward, as we were discussing in meetings before this, to increasing the pipeline of potential candidates here in Kenya, but also the number of trusts in the UK, where we have nearly 300 hospital trusts making up the NHS, who I know as soon as they hear of the high quality of Kenyan nurses will be fighting to get you to come and work in their area.
As our ambassadors in this effort, the role that you play and how you succeed is so important. Is so important to us and is so important to Kenya, because if the first ones who go develop a good reputation and a good name, as Jane says, we are going to get another 9 for each one of you.
The nurses who couldn't hide their joy expressed their excitement to be taking part in the program.
I began the process last year in around October. I did my IELTS exam in November, my CBT in January this year. I did my interview 3 months ago, so it has taken quite a bit of time, but through the Nursing Council, they have made it look easier.
Recruitment started, I think, in April, but for me, I started the process way earlier, around last year, November, because I started revising for my IELTS and also the CBT. So I can say for the recruitment, it usually starts after we have all the requirements. So it started in April, and I feel it's a bit fast because we are already leaving now. We are leaving tomorrow, that is the 28th.
Other countries that have expressed interest in recruiting the Kenyan healthcare workforce include Italy and Kuwait, with the government ironing out the memorandum of understanding in order to ensure the Kenyan interest is protected. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
Well, all the best to them. Now, as Kenyans experience a likelihood of our sixth wave of the COVID-19 infections, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with other stakeholders in the health sector, have launched a fleet of mobile vaccination clinics that will enable locals from different parts of the country to easily access COVID-19 vaccinations. Currently, COVID vaccination uptake is at 8.5 million, which is 31.4% of the adult population and remains below the expected rate of 70%, which totals to 19 million adults. The mobile clinics therefore aim to vaccinate at least 70 people daily to reach the targeted number. Speaking during the launch, the health PS, that is Susan Muchache, said that the mobile vaccination clinics will target far and hard to reach places as well as areas with high population and low vaccination coverage,
which are already available in most of our facilities. And I'm happy to note that we've done this acceleration launch in several counties now, and we are yet going on. We are looking at counties which have got a high population, but the vaccinations are low. So that is the low-hanging fruit. So we want to begin there, but we are also not going to leave behind the far and hard-to-reach places where the mobile clinic will go a long way to move and take the services closer to the people.
Remember that vaccination does not only protect you as an individual. Vaccination is also protecting the entire community. So when you get vaccinated, it's not only for you, it is also for you to protect your community. So it's not individual benefit, it's individual but also community benefit.
All right, from that very point, it's a time that we take a short break. I know we have so much lined up for you ahead, so make sure that you keep it right here as you as well continue engaging us. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. In a bit, I'll be coming back with a guest. Remember, it's about the cost of living. It is about, the days to the general election and how as a people we are prepared, and that long-awaited moment where the presidential candidates then get to meet the IBC, the adjustments that the IBC will have to make after that talk, and the other way around. So make sure that you are here with that, and we'll be coming to expound and unpack all this.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
hapa, the reason why niliweka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama nilivyosema, kila siku mwishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
As an alpha male, you're also a leader. Not to just women, friends and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty, the spice and the brains. The men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m. This is The Grind. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. T.S. Eliot.
So I decided, let me just take this up, put the teaching on hold first. Let me try see where this can go.
I mean, the opportunities are a lot. But is that all you need? Oh wait, there's more. This seems a little too much. Let's slow it down.
You do this is something you do out of passion.
Join me, Violet Njaki, as I navigate through the maze of the increasingly dynamic business environment and quiet down the noises. As I help you flourish in business, every Monday at 7:30 p.m.
It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent. I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business. Farming. Tasty Wednesday. Fitness Thursday. And Feel Good Friday. With amazing DJs, celebs.
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
And music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste, all that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama nilivyosema, kila siku mwishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
As an alpha male, you're also a leader. Not just women, friends and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty, the spice and the brains. The men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
This is the grind. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. T.S. Eliot.
So I decided, let me just take this up, put the teaching on hold first. Let me try see where this can go.
I mean, the opportunities are a lot.
But is that all you need? Oh wait, there's more. This seems a little too much. Let's slow it down.
You do this is something you do out of passion.
Join me, Violet Njoki, as I navigate through the maze of the increasingly dynamic business environment and quiet down the noises. As I help you flourish in business every Monday at 7:30 p.m.
It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste, all that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul.
Back to the broadcast. It's a time that we get to the conversation, and fortunately all the gentlemen are not here yet, but then luckily we have one who's already on standby joining us virtually. That is Kevin Osido, who's a governance expert, and so we get into the conversation briefly. Perhaps he is the gentleman that is going to help us decipher what the papers detail this morning. I hope that you have had a chance to go through the papers, Kevin, as we as well take a look at other matters that are of importance. Kevin had promised that we'll be having this session, and Kevin, we promised this live that we should be focusing on enlightening the masses on the roles of the different cadres of leadership that we have today, and especially those ones that are elective positions, that is the presidential position, as well as the gubernatorial one, the senatorial one, the members of speak of members of county assemblies, those are the MCAs, and not forgetting the members of parliament as well as women representatives. So before we get to look at what the papers detail, do you want to commit again to this, that before we get to the polls, we could try and find about 15 minutes every week for people to get to learn this?
Definitely, Linda. In fact, one of the responses or answers to the levels of apathy that we see in our voters is going to be cured by that particular process of voter education. And not just that, but also looking at opportunities for the citizens of the Republic of Kenya to learn the roles and responsibilities of their leaders. Because one of the biggest challenges that even the candidates have is that people are campaigning over opportunities and responsibilities that are not theirs. So you hear, for example, an MCA talking about, issues that have to do with security, or you hear governors talking about issues to do with certain levels of roads, and they do not understand even the levels of those roads. So, for example, we have highways actually marked. We have level A, we have level B, C, D, E, up to F. So a governor has to understand what type of road passes through his or her county for him or her to be able to effectively engage with the citizens and also make promises that are formidable. And so it will be critical for us to undertake the process of voter education. It is, of course, a responsibility of IEBC, but institutions like ours, County Governance Watch, cannot sit back and watch the levels of ignorance that we see even at the electorate level. Because, for instance, in one ward, you might have over 74 aspirants of MCS, or 15 or 21. In Nairobi, there are constituencies or sub-counties that had 23 MPs. There is one that has 15 people running, having been cleared to run for the position of member of National Assembly or Parliament. So how then do citizens walk into the polling station and cast their votes effectively without making any mistakes? Remember that, as I told you, one of the areas where I attended a funeral, there is one candidate who was actually telling people in a loud voice in a crowd that because munanipenda muweke tick.
Surely.
Na ule mwenye amumpendi mumweke. That already is a spoiled vote, and we can't sit back and listen to those kind of sentiments. So it will be important for us to undertake that, and I commit, as you asked me, that we will have an opportunity to go through that particular process later.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the question of apathy. First, on the question of registration, but even worse, the fears are rife, especially when we think about the actual day that, a majority of Kenyans, courtesy of the high cost of living, the most unfortunate ways of life, and the fact that they're a little bit confused on, the importance of the leadership based on the previous views, or, based on the expectations that they've had previously, expectations that have not been met. There's that general feel, that even those ones that have registered might not, be convinced that early morning to wake up and go and cast their vote. I have been, just gauging myself for a moment, and I thought, I have so much information about this. but still a little bit disgruntled of the fact that, things are really not working right. And therefore, you just ask yourself, will there be a point of waking up to go and vote? Could we please speak to these ones that are probably having plans of not waking up to go and vote on the importance in as much as maybe the previous government has failed?
Yeah, of course, one of the things that people need to realize, Linda, is that failure to vote is actually voting in the person that you do not want to be into office.
Yeah.
It's more or less like a vote of confidence in the person who has failed you. And as you rightfully said, people must begin to get excited about the responsibility and the opportunity that they have to vote. In fact, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 gives sovereign power to the citizens of the Republic of Kenya, and this cannot be. We cannot lose our sovereignty because of people who have failed to undertake the responsibility that has been given to them by citizens. Of course, it is a fact that in some of the elections that we have had, people have decided to not respond to the kind of pledges, the manifestos, kind of proposals that they have told people, that the things that they have told people that they are going to do, which in fact I agree that really tends to lead towards the increased levels of apathy. However, the citizens and the voters need to realize that the power to change that particular aspect lies right in their hands, and we cannot let go of that power. So what we need to do, therefore, is to strengthen accountability mechanisms. Sadly so is that some of our elected leaders, so these politicians, once they have been elected into office, they even switch locations, they change their residences, and they change their phone numbers. You never get to hear them. And that is why citizens need to strengthen opportunities to hold their leaders to account. And in terms of doing that, the Constitution has given us that power, Linda, and we cannot sit back and watch. For instance, the levels of corruption, because that is also another reason that people keep talking about as leading to the increased levels of apathy. Why do you want to steal public resources that have been given to you, on the behest and in confidence by the citizens as a steward? So the challenge there, Linda, is that we have failed to strengthen citizen agency. We have failed to strengthen citizen accountability mechanisms. And if you look at almost all the 47 counties, there is no county that has an anti-corruption mechanism to deal with corruption within its county government. And we have done this through a tool that we call the County Governance Index. We have asked citizens whether they know of any single mechanisms, even frameworks or policies that have been put other than the constitutional requirements of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. So counties and our offices also need to work together with citizens to ensure that they abide by certain constitutional expectations. For example, Article 35 of the Constitution, right to information, that you are going to publish, mechanisms, or you are going to publish documents, you are going to make information available so that citizens can be able to effectively engage with your account. And last week we were with you in studio, Linda, when talking about the kind of the launch of the digital systems that His Excellency the President launched last week on Friday.
Yeah.
And if you look at why that is happening, is because Kenya as a country and in competition with other countries in the globe is actually in the process of enhancing open governance and open governments, so that at a click of a button, citizens should be able to see what their counties are doing and what their governments are doing. So we have a lot of work to do, of course, in the third generation of county governments and our CIDPs, and indeed the third generation devolution from 2013 to 2017, and now we are heading to 2022. And there are many lessons that we have learned, and so citizens must be able to also strengthen, even as we head to elections in the next 41 days, to look at the people who will be taken by their words, and also to look at the kind of challenges that we have had dealing with our leaders in 2013, in 2017, and those therefore should inform what we do and who we vote for in 2022. Linda.
All right, well, and well put right there. Crossing fingers that then the people will be, confident to go out there and vote, despite the fact that, the situation does not look all rosy. Like Kevin would rightfully put it, you fail to vote, then you'll have voted in that wrong person that you probably never wanted or never wished for them to. Because at some point in time, we all have a position and we all have some level of understanding on what this, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen would be presenting to us, those ones that seek our votes. And so as we get into this conversation, Kevin, I will acknowledge that in a few then we'll be joined by another Kevin Nyamai, who's already in studio being mic'd. So in a bit we'll get all that. We'll get to, involve him. But before it gets to that point, we have the papers. I don't know whether you've been lucky enough to get the papers this morning. Nakuru County, magazeti zimefika tayari. It's interesting how gazetes get to the destination very early,
Yeah, they arrive at about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Unfortunately, people are asleep.
Yep.
And some people don't sleep like myself. So I haven't even left the room to go and look for a paper because we are here on national security responsibilities, Linda.
Okay.
And sometimes
there's a problem in Nakuru. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And now that you talk about the question of security, it's just that a couple of minutes ago I ran a story on the insecurity in Nakuru County, and we have seen the gubernatorial aspirants, the current governor as well as Susan Kihika coming out, and other leaders coming out to address this matter. It's quite a concern that there are cases of insecurity not just in Nakuru but across the country. Aside from us looking at it, at the national perspective, just what is not happening?
So, Linda, one of the things that Kenyans will have to do is to accept that most of us don't have any other country to go to. And so having believed and accepted that, we have to take care of our own security in terms of not being very privy to information that is propagandish, and also opening up opportunities for politicians to radicalize young people and also to use as easy exploits of insecurity. Because what is happening right now is that the levels of politics that is being done in most of our counties, and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission already highlighted hotspot counties. In fact, Nairobi was in Gishu, Nakuru, Mombasa, and are among some of those. And if you look at what's happening in Baragoi, for example, in Marsabit, where in fact the government has put in a curfew of 6 to 6, these are things that in my view should not be happening at a point in time when we are only a few days to the election. And so government will not rest to be able to protect its citizens. There are a few elements that have decided to radicalize and of course incite people against each other. Simple things like breaking somebody's poster, Linda, that is a criminal offense because it's an electoral offense. But citizens do not know about some of these things. The young people who are being mobilized by politicians, they have no idea what the law says, and if you're arrested, then you become a guest of the state, and that might not end up very, very nicely. So a lot of things are happening, and government is trying its level best, but there is no better way to enhance security other than a partnership between the government and its people. And that is the sole mandate as to why we are in Nakuru County with a number of county commissioners, including that of Nakuru County, the regional commissioner, Minister of Interior, and different agencies of non-state actors here to decipher around security in the country, and particularly looking at the host county, which is Nakuru, Linda.
Well, all right. That's a great, a program that you're running right there. We hope that you are successful with it, and that it, traverses the different parts of the country, all these counties that we have, the 47 of them. And at this moment, I am delighted to introduce Kevin Nyamai, who is Member of Parliament candidate Thika Town. Joins us this morning. I think I'm surrounded by Kevins, right behind me, on the other side, that is the gallery. My director is actually a Kevin. Same applies to my sound person. And here we are, we have Kevin Osido, and in studio there is Kevin Nyamai. So yes, I am delighted, and thank you so much for creating time, Sam. It's the first time that you are on Morning Cafe. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to great insights, as well as, allowing that moment to speak to the people of Thika Town. Kevin Osido, governance expert, is the gentleman that we've been having this conversation with. And therefore, I hope we can get to the talks of politics, because then you are a politician, and therefore politicians are paid to politic. So I guess I'll be in order to get you to this conversation of politics. But even before it gets to that, on the papers this morning, this talk of high cost of living finds its way there. First of all, there's that, protest for higher pay. because then Kenyans realize that perhaps the government might not do much to make the adjustments, to create subsidies, to have the prices go low. Then they say, well, it's time that we look, we turn to face the employer and tell the employer, you know what, kindly adjust the salaries upwards. Would this be a fair move for those ones that are employers, especially looking at how difficult it is, and it cuts across. It's not just about, you know, the people, the common wananchi. I think this one cuts across.
Thank you so much, Linda, for that. And I want to say good morning to the viewers and Thika residents. And I'm very happy to be here today. Economy is something that is very pertinent to the common wananchi today. Me included, of course. Me and you every day, Linda, we wake up, work hard to make ends meet. And when you look around, everybody, we are just post-COVID-19 effect, and many people are jobless. You can imagine, Linda, if you are staying in a residential place where you are paying rent, you have kids to go to school, and again, at the same time, you find that there is no income. Maybe you are running a business, and it goes down. It is a serious challenge that Kenyans are going through. Not only the Kenyans, but even look at it from this perspective. The employees who are employed, they are looking at, for example, if you are not working in a private sector or your own business, you are employed by an organization. This organization are not making profit. If you don't break even, then it's not easy for you to retain your employees. So many people were laid out due to COVID-19, and other factories and companies also, they closed down. And that actually trickles down to the economic aspect. If you are the breadwinner of the family, for example, if you are the breadwinner of my family, and my wife is not working, or we have lost job, all of us, definitely life is in disarray. Yes. So I think it's very important. Sometimes when you talk about the financial challenges and economic challenges, we look at also the factories, the factories, the manufacturers, and all that people. How are they also breaking the profit margin? If there is no profit margin, then how do you pay your people?
Right.
Yes. So we need to look at it from a more balanced or equitable way of putting the employer and the employee on a safe ground. Thank you.
Okay, well, Kevin, as you respond to this, we ask today, it is that season of campaigns as compared 2017, where we almost thought that there's going to be an unga, you know, like, or an unga revolution, so to speak, because, well, the prices of unga were at 150. And, you know, you could see this side of Right Honorable Raila Odinga pushing the Kenyans, reminding them that this is on the extreme. We need to root out this government. And somehow the government hit to that cry and made the necessary adjustments. Well, many argued that it was about politics, but still it was a cushion to the people of Kenya. Today, on the campaign trails, we do not have so much of conversations as pertaining to, you know, the cost of high living. And if there are any, it is about pointing fingers. Oh, it's the government, or it's the handshake. If it's not the handshake, then it's the deputy president who, you know, destabilized the activities of the government and all this. Just how genuine are these leaders? And I mean, are we likely to see a scenario where the necessary adjustments on the prices will be made?
I think, Leader, that's a very good question to Kenyans.
Yes, Kevin, will be coming to you in a bit, yes.
That's a very good question, Linda, that you're asking here on TV47. Why are we pointing fingers? I think at some people. The issue is, when you point fingers to people, we are saying that so-and-so is not right.
Yeah.
So I'm the right person. The moment you are not in the boat, you say the boat is leaking.
Right.
So those people are in the government, they are supposed to have made everything good. But the moment you jump out of the bus, you say that bus is not fast enough. Now, when it comes to issues of unga, of course, everybody takes ugali, me and you.
Yeah.
And where you buy your packet of 2 kg maize flour is exactly the same place. And also our leaders. Kenya has a serious problem in terms of putting a blame on somebody. And when you put a blame on somebody, for example, we are vying for this parliamentary position to work for the people of Thika. What am I going to do to make sure that the life of Thika people is good? The issue is to look at those gaps which are there in terms of economic constraints. One of them is food. How do we make sure that we have those issues brought down to a very comfortable environment whereby mwananchi wa kawaida cannot complain.
That's true.
But the issue here again is about petrol. Anytime you talk about petrol increase, even 1 bob, it completely affects everything.
Right.
It escalates from up to down. So we need to get proper controls, policies which are implementable, and then we walk the talk. Leaders talk about issues which are not practical. When we are saying that when I get to power, or when I become the MP, for example, I'll bring Wunga to 70 shillings, it's a big lie. So it's the same thing that we need to talk about practical things. And we give Kenyans, and I think Kevin has talked about issues of giving wananchi the civic education.
Right.
Why are things not going the right way? Not saying Nyamai will do this and this because X and Y never did it.
Okay.
And when I'm there, things get worse, maybe. So the issue is here to tackle issue head-on and tell Kenyans. And when I come to office, come 9th, because I know maybe the Thika people will vote me.
Yeah.
I want to be coming up with issues of civic education in my constituency. There are 5 wards in Thika. And I want to come up with an issue of educating my people ward per ward to make them know what is that brings about inflation. What is that the MP is supposed to do for the people of Thika? What is that the government is supposed to do for the people of Thika? Etc., etc., all the way down to the MCA. Linda not overlooking that. The government of today, we have a government already. There's no vacuum. There's a government of Jubilee.
Right.
The prices are going up. And everybody is campaigning using the Jubilee failure. And tomorrow, we're not saying that the Unga will not fail to go up.
Yeah.
Petrol will go up and come down. We know these things are controlled in different areas. The issue is, how do we control this? That's the biggest question.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, well, Osidor, this is getting, to a level where it's quite unfortunate. And probably just picking it up from what Nyamai says, how then do we deal with this fact that deep down we know we will vote between, a fox and a jackal, that the individuals that are there are not new to us, and therefore at the back of our heads or our minds, there's this understanding that these people or the people that we're supposed to choose from are really not going to bring so much of change, but then we just have to go out there and vote.
Linda, that's actually the paradox. In fact, it is one of the difficulties that citizens have to deal with, and hence the conversation about apathy, which we had earlier on, that most people do not feel excited about this election, particularly given the failures of the people that they have put in office and the kind of hope that they had. And so this election, unfortunately, has failed to inspire hope. Remember, in 2013, we had the hope around devolution and the desire that we were now going to have power given to the citizens at the county levels, where they would have the opportunity to make decisions on really what matters to them, and that the county governments would then come up and implement those particular aspirations. In 2017, we moved on to looking at that increased and inspired hope, particularly by the judiciary when the election of the president, the presidential vote, was annulled.
Yeah.
People were excited about this newness in Kenya. In fact, if you looked at headlines even across other regional news media, Kenya was doing well in terms of its governance and leadership, just because a presidential vote was nullified and Kenyans taken back to the vote. And people thought that that was already beginning to strengthen governance and to make things work in a manner to suggest that people now would have an opportunity even to have increased gallons of unga and of ugali on their tables. Unfortunately, the kind of difficulties that Kenyans have had to go through in between 2017 and 2022, including COVID-19, which my co-panelist Kevin has talked about, has made, and the kind of irresponsibility, Linda, that we saw government dealing with around COVID-19, including high drama or high corruption drama from KEPSA and people in government doing business with the same government, and nothing, absolutely nothing being done to these people. This really messed up. In fact, it disenfranchised Kenyans, and heading to the election. Therefore, you realize that people are beginning to talk about an economy election, but that narrative is not really gaining traction. People are not getting excited around why it would be an economy election that talks about monies that people cannot touch, the levels of unemployment that young people have gone through, the number of industries and companies, offices that have had to be closed. Some of them are global offices in Kenya that were actually closed because of ramifications of and ravages of COVID-19. But in all these things, government still failed to really come up so strongly, other than the economic stimulus packages that were put in place, and of course one of them being the kazi mtaani for the young people, which government has also reintroduced again. But if you look at the drama, the propaganda, the politics, even around kazi mtaani, Linda, it is not exciting to people. Yes, of course, to the young people who are part of this process, it is what they have to do, because now they have to get some few hundreds of shillings and some little thousands at the end of the month and at the end of the week to help them put food on the table. Now, getting into how we can be able to deal with this, remember that part of this, the failure has also been Parliament, because other than helping Kenyans to reduce the cost of living, what they have done is to increase the debt burden. Now we are talking at approximately negative 10.9 trillion. Now, what Kenyans don't know is that this money has to be paid. And so part of the difficulties that we are going through, other than the global issues that have to do with the war in Ukraine and Russia and, effects of climate change, COP20, whatever, and the conversations going on at that very high global level, there are issues that Kenyans have to deal with here. And part of that includes the lack of public participation in terms of the debts that Kenya is taking. A few years ago, our president told us that he was going to ensure that the documents of SGR and all the other loans that government has taken to its, trillions are actually published. But we have failed to push government effectively, Linda. So when I hear you talk about Unga revolution, sometimes I bluff and I laugh, because Kenyans have been tried and tested many times, even to stop, government from taking advantage. But we have failed to take advantage of those opportunities. There are times when I've had people saying, all those people, all those middle class, people with vehicles, can you stop them on the road so that we stop Nairobi from moving, we stop Mombasa from moving, we stop Nakuru from moving, we stop Kisumu from moving? But who will take the first sacrifice and the first
And I mean,
risk?
that's perhaps the question that people are asking. And I would hate to be the person who's seated here to call for the same, but we cannot run away from such a question. And I mean, I have had people asking, why is it that today Kenyans are not, hitting the streets? Why are they not out there peacefully demonstrating, registering the problem that is there? Why is this not happening anyway?
Thank you, Linda.
And I'm not saying that I should be looked for so that I am arrested for calling Kenyans to demonstrate.
Neither should I be looked for. We're just trying to ask ourselves, why is it, is the trigger not, heavy enough to get Kenyans say that, enough is enough?
We are not organized effectively, Linda. You look at, for example, the elections that we are running. We are being paraded according to our ethnic cocoons and our ethnic communities. That you say I'm Kevin Osido, and already people might not even imagine that you could be Taita. They already know you are Luo. You say you are Linda Alel, I don't know where you come from, but already the URA gives you a place. You say you are Kevin Nyamai, and they imagine. So the manner in which we are so disorganized, we are not properly coordinated, and even the people who coordinate us are full of their own selfish interests. They get called, they are paid little monies here, and before you know it, the campaign is dead. That is what happened with, for example, Unga Revolution, which was very successful. But most of those who are behind Unga Revolution were appointed into county governments. They were given a few monies here and there. And unfortunately, people know these things. Some of the most successful civil rights activists in Kenya have also been compromised, Linda, and we can mention their names.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they desire to mobilize Kenyans around this one goal. And this has happened in other countries. Look at, for example, the Black rights movements in the US by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. May God rest his soul in peace. Look at the wars around the capture by government during Moi era of Uhuru Park. It only took the former Professor Wangari Maathai, to be out there and to talk about it. Today, we're even much more powerful because we have social media. We have Twitter, we have all of these Facebook, we have mechanisms to stop government, Linda. But the disorganization among ourselves and the lackluster engagement of the middle class of Kenya is quite disheartening. You know, we are so scared about losing our jobs. We are so scared about not having milk in the morning. Yet there are people who are actually sleeping hungry, you know, and these are the people who come to our homes. They work for us, and besides giving them little money, we don't even care about children who cannot go to school. And so in my view, Linda, we have to think through, maybe post-elections, how we are going to organize the middle class and organize Kenyans. We have seen very successful engagements and innovative aspects of the Kenyan community, particularly through innovation. M-Pesa, for example, look at the kind of the innovation that young people came up with during COVID-19, university students. And last week, most of the digitization systems that the president was launching have actually been done by young Kenyans. Why can't we move this a notch higher and get into the levels of stopping government from taking advantage of people? And if we can't stop government, let's stop the legislature, who is taking advantage of, you know, just the fact that they feel so special, so honorable to make very disorganized and dishonorable policies and laws for Kenyans. You know, I blame the rising cost of living on our parliamentarians. They have failed to check government. They have failed to ensure that we have effective debt regimes that respond to the economic needs of the people, and they have also failed to engage Kenyans on important aspects, particularly on the budget process.
Nyamai.
So maybe Kenyans should stop voting for people who are in parliament on 2017 and look for other voices, and then we attach specific accountability mechanisms and tell them, when you get into Bunge, the first 100 days, because there is all this talk about 100 days.
Yeah.
We also tell them, when you get to Bunge in your first 100 days, this is what we want to see. And Mheshimiwa William Ruto must stop accusing the government, because he's part of this government.
All right.
He keeps saying, oh, the cost of life is high because of the hardship, because you know, the president is not listening to me. I don't think it is true. It is so hypocritical, Linda, because I haven't seen an opportunity where the DP has resigned from government. He is part of this government. Let him help Kenyans come up with solutions.
Fair enough, you know, as early as now. And Nyamai, that is one of the biggest problems that we have today.
Yes.
That is, like I started by saying, it's pointing fingers. And you know, the most unfortunate thing is that those ones that are pointing fingers are the same leaders that we're supposed to have, and are the same leaders that are here today. So why would we even imagine and believe that they bring, or they come in with, you know, some aspect of change? And why is it that, you know, Kenyans have not gotten to levels where they hit the roads and say, you know what, today unga is more expensive than sugar? That is quite absurd. You know, one of the most, you know, important commodities in the home today. That, you know, I was having a conversation with someone who was telling me that, you know, they go to places like Kibra, and you know, 21st century, that people can go to the shop to buy toothpaste, you know, like you go with your toothbrush, so you can get toothpaste. You know, it is quite unfortunate, Nyamai.
Truth be told, Linda, and I'd agree with Kevin there, that Kenyans need to take things seriously. They need to take their lives seriously in terms of what is supposed to be given to them. Politicians are different from leaders. Politicians will muscle out. And I think Kevin gave it so clear that the moment you are looking for a political position, then you also rally behind your tribe. That's one thing Kenyans need to break and say, we don't want to be called a tribe, such that if Nyamai is a Luo or a Kisi or a Kamba and steals public money, they should not rally behind me and say, Uyu ni mtu wetu. We don't want that kind of a scenario. We want everybody to carry his own cross. And that's exactly what I said. When I come to office, we are really facing it hard, Linda, to convince people that Nyamai can be a good leader. I can be a good member of parliament because I have ABCD. We give you attributes. But the previous people or previous leaders who have been in office have completely polluted the pool such that the common mwananchi does not have any faith in any person. And we want to come to power, not really power, to leadership, to show that they are true good leaders, not necessarily being a very big public figure in terms of popularity, either through financial issues or political kingpins. We need to have leaders who are sober. We need to have leaders who are servants. Time has come to get leaders who are servants, not masters.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin has talked about issues of blame. And I talked about jumping from the boat. the moment you jump from the boat, you start seeing the negative things, the bad things. So if today we have a government, why are we complaining when we still have a government? And I want to echo his word and say, if the deputy president is still the deputy president, we are using that title and it's true, constitutionally is there. Why can't he tell us some of these solutions? Because he's still in government. That is the thing that Kenyans need to know and go out there. If my deputy president or my president is in power, don't give us issues about negative things that the government is doing when we are sitting on the same table. It's like cutting a tree when we are on it.
You know, allow us to take a short break. And on this very note, I remember there was someone who was circulating the allowances of Deputy President William Ruto, generally everything, including the salary. And you know, he questions, how can you say that you're not part of the government when you're getting, or you're carrying this salary home?
Absolutely.
What are you trying to tell us? But anyway, such is politics in the country, and the high cost of living continues to, you know, pinch hard on the people of Kenya, and questions continue to linger as to how this can be addressed and whether indeed the government is offering us a listening ear at all. So we take a short break. There's still so much that we might need to touch on, and therefore after that break, we'll come back with them.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama nilivyosema, kila siku mwishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
As an alpha male, you're also a leader. Not to just women, friends, and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty, the spice, and the brains. The men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
This is the grind.
I mean, do we sit with some bit of worry, or we just want to say that this case somehow ICC will handle it in the best way they know how?
So, Linda, in order for us not to be accused of sub judice, we might not go into the details, the merits and the merit of the case, but I am sure that this is a matter of national interest to Kenyans, and particularly because one of the accused is of course the Deputy President of the Republic and is also a presidential candidate. So my levels of confidence in the ICC are quite high, in the hope that they'll be able to deal with this matter. And that is supposed to also help Kenyans to rest the issue so that we have a peaceful election, an election that does not remind us of the past, an election that also does not remind us of how probably weak we may be, because we have very strong systems in our country. Our judiciary is quite strong, and there is, if you look at the levels of confidence in state organs today, probably the judiciary is one that comes quite top high. And so my prayer is that the ICC will be able to deal with this matter. The worry only is in terms of time frames, because this has taken quite long, since almost 10 years plus, 2007, and the matter started around late 2008, early 2009, and today we are talking 2022. So it's quite, probably the ICC needs to revise its timelines and strengthen elements of evidence collection, prosecutorial powers of of the court itself and the other agencies that work with the International Criminal Court, the ICC, and ultimately, where is the place of the citizens in terms of not just waiting for news as news or information as news, but actually being part and parcel of the kind of conversations that are taking place there. Of course, we continue to pray that we are not reminded of the 2007 occurrences in our country, because later there is no Kenyan who should lose his or her life because of elections. Thank you.
All right, well put. And we remind ourselves that we're not immune to this. We cross fingers for the best, especially at this point. It is the question of peace that we call for across. And like Kevin says, I think it's only fair that we rest this as we await what then the final direction would be. But on the campaign trails, we do not forget to speak about these individuals that are out here. And Baba is promising us low change to speed up the question of corruption cases, while Ruto on the other side outlines health sector initiatives in a soft manifesto launch. While we are keen to know what members of parliament are selling, the presidential candidates will be selling, and we have seen them traversing the different parts of the countries. Not much of Agano's Wahiga Mwaure, but then again, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, Deputy President William Ruto, they have been out there. Wajakoya is now attempting to pull his campaigns yesterday in Kisumu County as well, pointing a finger at those ones that are telling him that his mode of campaign or style of campaign is not the best. But to what these gentlemen are offering the people of Kenya, do we get excited?
Thank you, Linda. I think what we need to know is that the Kenyan people are confused to choose between who's saying the truth and who's lying. Kenyan people are confused when politicians or leaders who are seeking for positions are using different strategies to confuse their decision come 9th August. And what am I saying when I say this? I've gone to the ground and people are asking you questions. Why are you coming without money? Why not giving us unga? Where is water? Where is ABCD? Now, if you get leaders who don't have the idea of making sure that we promise what we can give, then they are using the financial muscle to dish out money. And that's why you can see very big crowds following one side of a politician.
Yeah.
Not because he's popular, not because he's selling anything. They don't even talk about any policy. Everybody's talking about economic politics. Economic politics is about what people should always know.
Yeah.
Where were we yesterday? Where are we
Where are we
today?
going?
The leader must show us the projection for tomorrow. But we are using that to put our people together,
Right.
to rally behind myself. Now, when you talk about issues of leaders, maybe not looking at the aspect of what the Kenyan are looking for, but the numbers. Right now, people are lying. Some of them are lying that when I come in, I'll drop the price of unga. Why not drop it now?
No, okay.
What will make the difference in the next 40 days? When you're in power and I'm campaigning like a member of parliament in Thika, and I tell my Thika people, when you elect me to parliament, then the fuel will go to 60 shillings. It's a big lie.
Okay.
And Kenyans like listening to these lies. And politicians have mapped and known that Kenyans know and they love lies. Time has come for leaders to tell Kenyans the truth. Tell Kenyans, and that's why I say I want to give extensive civic education to my Thika resident. I want to make Thika a benchmark of truth, honesty, transparency. That's why I'm fighting for this position.
Yeah.
That people should know when there's a hike in price of different commodities like food, sugar, it is because of ABCD. It's not a blame of the government. But anybody who's trying to aspire for a future political position, we look at the small mistakes or issues that the government has not accomplished and then pinpoint, put a checklist, and then you put them to the people. The problem is the recipient, the Wanjiko, how they take it. You cannot tell Kenyans that there is no enough resources in Kenya. We pay taxes. And I think, like the way Kevin has talked about, it is the high time that parliamentarians are put to task to pass laws the way they are expected. Laws that touch and bills that touch the common mwananchi. And I think the best thing for us Kenyans is to be taxed. I want to go to parliament and I want to pay tax. Why? I'm supposed to contribute towards the economy of this country. And when politicians don't pay tax, we give them a leeway to accumulate wealth, and again they go ahead and steal the public funds. And Linda said, I want to be in record for the first time to be an MP of Thika who will give transparency, honest in terms of figures, because figures don't lie. I'll let the people of Thika know how much money is given for projects, how much money is given for CDF, how many students, how many kids were given bursary. And I'm using a very strong, unique method of administration. I want to use the 12 disciples structural administration. What am I saying when I say this? My constituency has 12 wards, 5 wards. Each ward I'll come up with 12 people. Collected or elected from different clusters. The church, people with disability, wamama, wazee, the youth, etc., etc. Including the chief. Because I don't want Kenyans or people of Thika to beg the sub-chief or the chief to sign a bursary form. It is not a request. It's a constitutional right for people of Thika and Kenya at large because we pay tax. Then these people will do a very unique work. I'll give them a checklist of things to do. Each ward should work for its own projects. They go out there and tell me, give me a checklist vis-a-vis what I'll give them. What are the short-term and long-term that you want your ward to get in my parliamentary kitty? And I believe the same should be for the governor. And the other politicians or leaders were in that line. Then, after that, we have a meeting at the stadium in Thika, ward by ward. Township, it's there. We sit down and listen to wananchi. We get the checklist, and I ask my people, is that what you need? Because different wards have different needs. Maybe my township needs security as a priority. Maybe my hospital ward needs medicine or drugs in the hospital.
But just how much can you do as member of parliament if it is about the question of hospitals, is a question of health and all that? Because we understand the mandate of the members of parliament, and we're just talking about that with Kevin Osido.
Yes.
That reality is that it's oversight, legislation, as well as representation, and by a large extension is a question of education and some bit of security. That is at the level of the constituency, and it ends there. So through what will you then sit them down and say, let's address the interest or the problem of this ward? Under what kitty? Is it about the question of lobbying? And what exactly?
I'm talking about issues of giving them the civic education. I'm talking about, for example...
Oh, this is on civic education.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. When you talk about health, of course, health is devolved with the county government. I think it's a very heavy load. We have seen issues of strikes by nurses and doctors, because the county government maybe allocation is not comfortable for the health. And I wish it could be reversed back to the central government, because that is where it belongs. Health is very paramount for everybody. And you not need to take a lot of joke with about health. Food and health, two key things, very important. And then I think when I'm talking about this issue of civic education, it's where I want to let my people of Thika know what is that you expect from the MP. So that you don't ask an MP to provide what the governor is supposed to provide. So that you don't ask your MCA to provide what the MP is supposed to give. That is exactly what Kenyans are missing. And we need to tell them straight and clear. And we give them the indicators why the economy may go up, the GDP aspect, why sometimes life becomes hard. That's the best way.
All right, fair enough. And Kevin Osido, in their own capacity, you think members of parliament would have the time, the latitude, and as well as the interest of getting their constituents to understand this?
Linda, one thing that probably you and I and the TV47 family need to do is to have a charter in studio signed by candidates like this gentleman, Mr. Kevin Nyamaki, so that before he leaves the studio, he actually signs that here's the things I said that I will do, are the things I am committing to do, and I will ensure that I do them. And then County Governance Watch can make copies and submit to the areas where they are running for office. So that, for example, for Kevin, we go and publish them and drop them in Thika town, and we organize town hall meetings like what he was proposing earlier on, and wait for candidates of MP or whichever position, and then we give those to citizens. I like what he has said, because that is purely what used to happen even during the local government's regime before devolution came in. And it was called the LASDAP, Local Authority Service Delivery Action Plan, where citizens are put together and they're able to come up with their own priorities and make recommendations, including on resources that they want the government to be able to put in place. And we actually thought that, Linda, with the coming in of devolution, it would be quite different. Unfortunately, the levels of corruption in our county governments and the lackluster engagement of citizens, despite an existence of a law called the Public Participation Act that also has been domiciled within county governments. Most county governments do not consider voices of citizens as paramount and very important. Of course, I like the fact that you have asked him, how will you do it? Because really, for MPs, even for being patrons of CTF, the latitude you have is within education bursaries and security, where you construct, police stations or put in walls for police stations, basically ensuring that there is an infrastructure of security which is properly managed by the MP or the member of National Assembly. So that therefore means, Linda, that our candidates need to also understand their roles. But I like the manner in which he has been able to, respond to the fact that he would be happy to see the county government of Kiambu engaging with the citizens. So as a legislator, actually, one of his responsibilities is representation and oversight. So oversighting the county government and indeed national government projects within his constituency. But then the question, which is true to the fact, like you've asked, do they have the time? Do they have the privilege? Do they have the opportunity to actually go and sit? There used to be an MP who was also one of my mentors, the late Mheshimiwa Mutula Kilonzo, who is also a Minister of Education and then of Constitutional Justice. then education. And he used to have every day, he used to have a particular cadre of people that he meets.
Okay.
So you go to his house, to his office at Bomblast Cooperative House, 15th floor, and he would, on Monday, you would see this cadre of people. On Tuesday, Wednesday, like that. And the same also applied to the late Mheshimiwa Otieno Kajwang, who also had different cadres of people that he used to meet in a whole week. Now, why most MPs move and change their phone numbers is just the fact that they get so tired of responding to needs of the citizens. And I don't know how Mheshimiwa Nyamai, when elected, because I think the people of Kenya, of Thika rather, really need to consider him as a formidable candidate and elect him into that office. Then people like us at County Governance Watch will come and, help them hold him to account. But the fact that we have seen even very vocal people in the media getting elected, Jijopevu, for example, since he was elected, there is no big mega corruption story that he has done. We have names, the former MP Ababu Namwamba, who was elected and was very vocal. Then suddenly phone calls changed. You don't hear about them. It's a big issue of leadership. It's a big concern that has to do with accountability, Linda. And my prayer is that we can be able to strengthen accountability mechanisms. So the opportunity, the latitude is there, but at many times I normally think that the interest is not there, because what happens on the ground is totally different from what happens at the county, at the National Assembly, when especially after you hold the Bible and you say, so help me God. Many things happen. People have different priorities. Some of them, you never see them even visiting their constituencies. And those are leadership challenges that Kenyans also need to be wary of and be prepared when we walk to the ballot box to elect our leaders on August 9th. Those are the realities. There are people who are going to approach you with big tenders in your constituencies. They know, of course, that the MP does not do roads, for example. They don't deal with health issues, but they'll come to you and they'll give you hundreds of millions as kickbacks, as monies for your pockets, and then you begin to waste a lot of time looking for the governor to help them, give them a good word, political goodwill, and time is going, time is running, and people are still looking forward to Mheshimiwa Nyamai to respond to the things that he said he would want to do. Unfortunately, those things don't come up. MPs get elected, they want big houses. Of course, they have the house allowance, they have the car loan, car grants, they want big cars. Before you know it, their priorities have changed, Linda, and they don't think that 5 years is such a short time as to probably just equate it to 5 days or 5 weeks. And so Kenyans, when we talk about civic education, voter education, there is a lot, Linda, that we can talk about. And I'm sure that Mheshimiwa Nyamai, when he's elected by his people, he'll go through the parliamentary induction process in Mombasa by the Parliamentary Service Commission. And he will be told that MPs also take 500 shillings as bribe. MPs walk to the washrooms and they take 3,000 shillings. And there's a good reason why that happens. And it's quite a sad state of affairs, Linda, when our elected leaders fail to underscore and undertake the responsibilities for which they are elected into office. Linda.
See, the most unfortunate thing is that money is the driving factor. Yesterday I had very noble leaders here that, as well, just trying to unpack this conversation of, leaders calling for a 6-piece, kind of vote system or kind of vote, so to speak, that is in a quest to make sure that they have proper representation in Parliament, and the question of independent candidates. And you see, they acknowledge that the key leaders right at the top should stop interfering with these other sides of leadership or these sectors of leadership, and they say just focus on making sure that you secure the presidency. Once you secure the presidency, these members of parliament are in desire of money. That's the most unfortunate thing, and therefore somehow you will just have to buy their loyalty to your side, and so you will fix that problem of representation at the level of the houses once you have ascended to power. And it broke my heart to hear that it's all about money. Even this report that speaks of wash, is hugely about, members of parliament or say leadership that gets into power because of the fraudulent activities that they conduct to make money, and they get to power to sanitize themselves. They get the power to make more money. They get to power to cover up for all this. And I mean, if we have, say, 40% of, leadership that seeks our mandate, or they seeks that mandate with questionable integrity, what does that mean, Nyamai?
I want to start from where Kevin stopped. And I think talked of a very unique thing that this country should do. We need to sign when we come and talk in public like this, in a public media like this, that if elected, I'll do ABCD. Because I know you have fact files that can be played even after 50 years. And then when we go back again with the same thing, there's something we call a recall cap bill, which parliamentarians have never passed. Because if you don't perform within some certain period of time, you should be recalled back by your constraints, and then we get a by-election and you go home. This is the right time for us to do that, such that if people are elected in office, they should know that they are going to serve, not to make wealth. The reason why I'm saying this is that failure to plan is planning to fail. So if people are not planned for what you want to do to the people, that's why some of them are saying we need to have a three-piece. And from the ground, if you allow me to use this word, we have said, or people have told me, mambo ya three-piece tuachie maiti. It's a very strong connotation when you talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't want an issue of whereby I want to get people who are aligned to my objectives, such that when we get to office, then we can sit somewhere and say, can we pass a bill, or can we pass this project which is about 100 million shillings, which is meant for people. That's why you want people who are close to you, such that bills which go to affect the good life of Mwananchi are not passed. And that's why Captain talked about issues of leaders or members of parliament going to toilets and get money. It's unfortunate. May God punishing them if there are others who still have the same intention. We should go out there fearing God. And that's why, Linda, if you look at my manifesto, the first word is fear of God. If I'm getting 10,000 shillings to pass or to reject a bill that is going to help a Mwananchi, a Turkana kid in terms of education in Northeastern, then I'm doing the service to myself as a leader. And we should fear God first before we do anything else. That is the biggest mistake we have. We want that collective cluster next to me, such that it's very easy for us to manipulate.
Yeah.
And the issue why you talked about the issues of very vocal leaders like Muhammad Ali. I used to like his Ijopefu.
I mean, the latest about him is that he says that he's being targeted after an attack in his Nyali City Air Force.
Yes. I think I liked when Muhammad Ali was elected. And I said, yes, Kenyans are looking the right direction. But unfortunately, I don't know what happens when you go to parliament. I'm yet to investigate and see. And even I've seen people who are pastors elected to parliament and they get corrupt. They don't perform. There's a problem that we need to change the leadership cluster and get the right people. It is unfortunate when you go to parliament and you don't perform what you have. And I think the issue of signing here is very important, as Kevin is saying.
Yeah.
Sir, you are old, you are held accountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I think it's time that we take a short break. Mr. Director, with your permission, and then we come back to unpack some more on what is happening. We proceed or we take a short break? All right, yes, a quick short break, and then we come back and understand what to expect from that meeting of the presidential candidates, with the IEBC. I know this is not news, this is something that happens, but out of these meetings, so much is bound to change, and we have seen them happening prior. And so we seek to understand whether there's going to be any changes, especially in making sure that IEBC is going to serve us better on this electioneering period. So let's take that short break, and then we come back with that.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. Here's our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying. Disability comes at different stages of life.
well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste, all that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama walivyosema, kila siku mwishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
By code, and there are also issues that arose in 2017 presidential election petition by NASA. And if you look at the ongoings, particularly in the conversations around the BBI and the reforms around the IEBC, most of those issues, especially the ones that were raised by the former Prime Minister and Azimio presidential candidate, Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, the 10-point agenda issues, most of them are issues that IEBC should have dealt with very many years ago. So the levels of preparedness of the IEBC, in my view, are quite wanting. The timing of this particular meeting is, in my view, not effective because, Linda, for instance, there are issues there that will not be dealt with. For example, the amendments, Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga asked them about the state of affairs in terms of the Elections Act to allow presiding officers to open ballot boxes, in the event that an erroneous ballot has been put in a box. And that is an issue that was discussed in 2017 and also 2013. That is a legal process that only Parliament can be able to deal with. And you see now Parliament has been prorogued. Part of the 6 laws that Parliament, throughout that IEBC submitted were never discussed because the Parliament said IEBC was late in terms of its submission. And why late? This is about a month or 2 ago. Why were they late? Yet they knew that on August 9th, as per the Constitution of Kenya, Kenyans would be going for an election. Of course, there are some of the issues that have been overtaken by events. For example, the employment of presiding officers and county officials. I'm sure that IEBC is in the process of recruiting poll officials, and that is a process that is ongoing on. But of course, I'm sure that Azimio was just concerned about the timings. there is also the other aspect which they asked around opening the data of those presiding officers and the poll officials to political parties so that they know who are the poll clerks in XYZ polling station or in the other polling stations, so that then people know about them, they can be asked questions. And I'm sure that those are some of the responses that IEBC is going to be giving to the candidates today, Linda, so that there is a big clarity. But of course, it's quite concerning that some of the asks are quite fundamental, because if IEBC says that anybody, any candidate can be able to tally their own polls, you know, taking us back to 2007, because I remember at KICC, part of the war that broke up in Molo was actually after one of the affiliates of the candidates said that this is our tally. This is the votes that were cast in Molo. Whatever the presiding officer is reading does not tally with ours. And before you knew it, Linda, hell broke loose and the country burned. So I am just a little bit concerned about the role of IEBC in verification of the pollings. And remember, in 2007, Kenyans were kept waiting for almost 4 days for votes from Tharaka Nithi, you know. And you were told we are not announcing the results until the votes come from Tharaka Nithi. And today I'm just beginning to realize that actually the way Mira is driven from the sides of Tharaka and Nithi and Meru as they pass through Thika Road in those very fast-moving, canter lorries, probably is the manner in which the votes were being transported from Tharaka. But the question is, what if a candidate says, we already have numbers from Tharaka Nithi, and this is what our people have told us from the ground? What will IEBC do? So verification and veracity of some of the asks, Linda, to me, are quite concerning, and I'm hoping that in this particular meeting, IEBC will be quite paramount and pronounced. There are very big questions around usage of biometrics and also the manual register, so that if the machine, the equipment, the BVR machine cannot pick your biometrics, is it possible that IEBC could allow you to actually go and get your data verified from the manual register? And I believe that that is really one of those things that will enhance, citizen and interest in the election, because otherwise, as we already discussed in the other segments of this show, the levels of apathy are so high up. And so IEBC should also be helping the over 22.102 million registered voters, to be able to show up there and feel confident that my data and my analytics are actually available in that particular equipment. Okay. Of course, taking into account that there are also other elements around voter security and how the parts of the country where there are curfews, where there are insecurity concerns, are going to be addressed by IEBC, taking into account that IEBC absolved itself as a constitutional commission from sitting in the multi-sectoral forum that is chaired by the Chief Justice, which in my view, I thought was quite a bluff of. And we see that kind of an attitude even as we continue to engage at the county levels, Linda. We were in Kiambu, for example, yesterday, and we had a meeting with the county commissioner. The county security intelligence committee was there. We had religious leaders, women leaders, youth leaders, leaders of persons with disability. But IEBC is just missing, and we continue to see that in other counties where we are doing a lot of work to support county governments in this new mechanism called the County Multi-Sectoral Forum on Elections. And so I believe that IEBC can only benefit, and in a huge margin, when it opens up partnerships, when it opens up doors to be able to engage with other stakeholders. Of course, we also know about their busy schedules, particularly 41 days to the election. Of course, we don't expect IEBC to be running around attending all the meetings. They should be preparing to make this election formidable. So, in my view, I believe that meeting will be critical, Linda, and it's a good thing because Mr. Chebukati actually committed that they would meet with the presidential candidates. I don't think somebody like Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga will probably be present there. Maybe he will send his people. Probably the deputy president might also not be missing, but we have seen him doing his runnings here and there. He had the health talk yesterday. Of course, there are conversations that I have serious issues with because they are absolving, they are more or less hitting into gaps of government and, in my view, taking us back. But we don't see the accountability mechanism in terms of how, for example, IEBC when it talks about health and NHIF. You know, what are you proposing? What is your recommendation? Of course, you are poking holes, but so what? So I expect that their handlers, the legal teams, will be present, but if they show up in person, I believe that that will be a huge plus to IEBC, because a lot of times the only levels where we see IEBC engaging with candidates, Linda, it is at the level of the vetting and the clearance. So once they are cleared, we no longer see them really having a very close engagement, an engagement that also tends to respond to questions. But I believe that that meeting is going to be very profound, because there are questions that were asked by various presidential candidates, including the deputy president, which IEBC needs to respond to. But the 10-point agenda by the former prime minister really is a crust of the matter. If IEBC can be able to deal with those issues, I'm sure that that will open up ways. Of course, some of them, as I said, have been overtaken by events, for example, the procurement processes, but it has to come from the horse's mouth, so that the confidence and the kind of response that IEBC gives also cements some of these questions. So of course, I can go into the details of the report, that the election report that was done after the 2017 election, that also brought up so many issues that IEBC for the last 5 years has not been able to deal with. But we look forward to the meeting and hope that it responds to so many questions, because IEBC looks quite unprepared for this election.
Well, it's unfortunate that in this point in time we are saying that, but we still want to bestow confidence on the electoral body, because as the constitution would dictate, we are supposed to go for an election that is on the 9th of August. That, like Kevin would say, IEBC had knowledge on that. IEBC knew very well of some of the problems that got the elections being nullified, as some of them that have not been addressed so far. And the reason why I sometimes give him that extra time is because he is going to give us that perspective, on a professional view, owing to what it is that they do as Governance Watch or County Governance Watch, and in terms of understanding the leadership spectrum in the country. And so I bring this to you on the very same question, as well as just having an imagination of the fact that IEBC says that interested players then would be allowed to tally along as the IEBC tallies. The emotions, the tension that comes along with that moment of tallying. Do you suppose this would be the right way, in as much as IEBC would probably work towards making sure that there are guidelines that should be followed, guidelines that are heavy enough to make sure that the process, as it cuts across, is straight?
I think, Linda, that's a very good question. And listening to what Kevin has said, I think the relevant stakeholders, the government, the parliament specifically, and IEBC should listen to what Kevin said. My million-dollar question is, why wait for 5 years? Why start planning the last year of election? And I start by saying failure to plan is planning to fail. IEBC has always had issues, but I've looked from it from a different perspective. What makes IEBC not be efficient? One, they talk about their budget, which the parliament is supposed to pass, isn't it? The parliament delays, takes a lot of time. So by default, we also blame the parliamentarians, because they don't take their role to make sure that IEBC has what it takes on time. The issues of waiting until the last electioneering year and start asking for ABCD, issues of register verification. Why not start immediately after 9th? What do the IEBC personnel do? It is so pathetic, so I think unbelievable. It is now they're talking about verification. We know where we're coming from. The issues of post-election violence, a very bad scenario. From that time round, IEBC should have started cleaning up and coming up with better, efficient methods of tallying. And making sure that we don't get an issue like the way Kevin's saying. The issues like we are waiting for Tharaka Nithi votes. Why Tharaka Nithi? Are you getting the point? The issue is we need to put things straight. We need to give IEBC what it takes, and then we give them the mandate. The double standard of whereby the IEBC is the legal body that is supposed to announce the final results, and we accept. We cannot allow another substandard body, That is in the name of the candidate, whether it's presidential or member of parliament or the gubernatorial position or even MCS, to say, no, we have our own results. I think that is something that we are supposed to be very careful with. It is sitting on a time bomb. We know what happened in 2007, 2008. I was a victim in Rift Valley. And I'm telling you, Kenyans, if you are there, whatever the outcome, go be calm. And I said, if one day I see the son of any presidential or candidate in the forefront of demonstration, then my kids will go. But if Nyamai is not elected and the people of Thika are demonstrating because Nyamai never won, and Mr. X or Madam X has won, and Nyamai and his family is not in the forefront, then let your kid not go on the streets. Let us sit down and give the legal entities to work on that. We need peace more than anything else. We need peace more than these positions.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need to focus. And the best thing, I heard about the use of biometric. We have a better option with IBC. If they can be so perfect, then the issues of stealing votes will not be there.
Be a problem.
The issues of other baskets or other boxes with extra votes for Nyamai will not be there. And the issues like the one we had during the time when the presidential results were rejected by the High Court, and we had a repeat, will not be there anymore. Because we can honestly say, the IBC can be honest, say, we can open the boxes. We want that honesty and transparency in IBC, and we'll never see issues, Linda. That is the way forward.
Wow.
Yes.
That's quite unfortunate. Kevin Osido, you know, time is moving very fast, and therefore we'll allow you give us your parting shots before we step out of this set, as we're looking forward to that meeting, as well as, you know, look forward to a peaceful process, a free and fair process for that matter. It is not always that it will be proper, but yes, you know, we have to soldier on, and we have to do it in the best way we know how. Parting shots as pertaining to this, and technically what it is that we have spoken about this morning.
Two things, Linda. One is I'm happy that at least since our last conversation about the IEBC, we asked them to enhance their public communication and education mechanisms. At least these days we see them issuing statements and the state of preparedness of the election. They are not operating in a cocoon. We have tried reaching out to IEBC. We've written letters. Gladly, they have responded to some of our letters around aspects of engagement with communities and citizens in the electoral process, particularly around voter education processes and also election monitoring. And Kenyans who are interested in this process can also log into the IEBC website to register their interest and desire to engage. Number two, Linda, is the fact that we do not have any other country. So my fellow Kenyans, let us desist from any propagandish engagements and the desire of people who may not like our cohesion and our peaceful our living together in peace, and desist from being used as tools of violence. We have only one Kenya, and this is the Kenya that we want to have even after the 10th of August. Let us maintain peace. Let us maintain calm. Go and cast your vote. Go back home, cook some tea, cook some uji, some porridge, and swallow it down your throats with some Irish potatoes. Thank you.
Well, interesting. Thank you so much. A good way or a good note. Someone is saying that, perhaps before I let go of you, that all this noise about the IEBC is preparation to reject election results. While there could be some valid points as to what is being raised, is that a way of these parties preparing themselves and having fodder for litigation at the level of the courts? Kevin Osido?
Linda, that is far-fetched because looking at the kind of experience that we have gone through, I don't think there's anybody who wants to go through the ICC process, and even the levels of, the name and shame that we see, and we already dealt with the ICC question in this debate. The biggest, actually, on this issue, the buck stops at the IEBC, and the question is, where have we been? So, and again, issues legal, when you have evidence, you go to the court, you feel aggrieved, you go to the court and you get justice. So IEBC might not have much to do when you are at the court, because they will say, we did what was possibly possible. And I agree with Mheshimiwa Nyamai in the sense that, yes, one of their biggest asks has been about the budget, the slow nature of sending the money from Treasury. But we must also be reminded that Parliament actually, in the supplementary budget before it was prorogued, added IEBC another 22 billion of the 46 billion shillings, which is money that also captures any eventualities of Ariran. So the possibilities of Ariran in the budget process have been taken care of, and IEBC should not use the budget now as an excuse. Let them hit the ground and respond to the difficult questions that Kenyans are asking, because there is no better way to run an election where people don't participate, and those chances are very possible that the levels of apathy and interest may be so high that on the day of election people actually don't just show up, they sleep. Linda.
Well, there you go. And Nyamai, as you close it up for us and as you speak to the people of Thika.
Thank you so much, Linda, for this opportunity. And I want to start maybe a bit from where Kevin has left. And thank you for having him in studio, because he has really given a lot of insight, in-depth information about the state of the nation. When we talk about IEBC's failure and shortfalls, it's like an athlete who's preparing for a bigger athletic competition. If you don't train properly on time, then when you get muscles, you put up with them. Muscle pulls, that is. So the issue is here is IEBC should not give us excuses. It is too late. We have 40 days to go, and we must have elections, and we must have peace. I want to echo what Kevin has said and say it is good that Kenyans know, and even my Thika people know, that Thika is bigger than the position of Nyamai as the MP of Thika, or even the president. Whoever is elected, let us accept, as the way Kevin has said it, put it clearly. Go cast your vote, go back home, prepare a good meal with your family, and watch the TV. Whatever the outcome, leave it to the right stakeholders. And I'm telling the Thika people, you need to evaluate and look at leaders who are truthful from their face. And it's very easy to see. Listen to them. Listen to every leader and elect carefully, because if you elect people based on different aspects, like if I give you something, you elect me, or using the judgment of the big mouths of people who are coming to your crowd, then you will make a big mistake. So Thika people, listen to this voice and vote Nyamai, and I think Thika will be great. Thank you very much. God bless Thika. God bless Kenya.
All right, so much feedback as well. Thank you so much. They say they are looking forward to great leadership. Thika is one that sits in Kiambu County. Kiambu County is hugely being watched. And one of the reasons why the likes of Wainaina Wajango are doing so well in this conversation of the gubernatorial position is because of the things that they have done to the people of Thika. And why I'm saying this is because I have hosted him. It's not a form of campaign, but it's the general feel that the people of Thika town are not so much so disappointed with his style of leadership. And therefore you're taking it from, big shoes.
Yes,
you will manage to fill?
Yes, no, I'm not going to. And I think the other day I talked to the incumbent MP, Engineer Jango. He's a good friend. And I think I told him that you have done your bit. And I want to fit in your shoes. I know they are big boots. And elevate a bit further. One thing, Linda, I want to say is that work will never end. Nyamai's time will come and end. So you need to put a benchmark and leave the other people to come and judge. So Engineer Jango did his best. We thank him for that. And I want to do my best. And someone else will also come back.
That's
and
true.
do the same. Thank you very much.
All the best. That is Kevin Nyamai, Member of Parliament candidate for Thika Town. We wish you nothing but the best, as well as Kevin Osido, governance expert. Thank you so much for speaking to us all the way from Nakuru County and for the great insights. It's important that if you're just joining in or you're tuning in now, that you go back to our social media platforms, get what it is that we've been discussing. Very, very important points for you, especially for the voter out there, in terms of understanding the roles of leadership and how best we make that informed decision of voting the next crop of leadership. So we close this one, not in totality. We get to some bit of business, which is very, very important.